Back to the Save the Date. Welcome, everyone. Another episode of Save the Date. I'm one of your hosts, Heath.
What's good, y'all? I'm Jamie, yo. And we back to the grill again. The grill again.
You, sir, are a blabbermouth.
Yeah.
Guys, housekeeping. Follow us on Save the Date now on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And today's title is The Role of Forgiveness in Dating, Letting Go of the Past, How to Release Resentment and Move Forward with Hope. Super key element in dating.
It's been coming up a lot in our episodes.
Yeah, I think it has been because me and you have talked about forgiveness. And on a personal note, as I tell people, I'm not in a midlife crisis. I'm in a midlife evaluation. I am in my midlife evaluation, reevaluating my approach to forgiveness and holding grudges. Everyone has their personal picadillos and idiosyncrasies. Mine has been struggling with grudges and unforgiveness. And so this has been apropos not only for us on a professional level with Save the Date, but with my own personal journey as a human being, recognizing that forgiveness is really the key to liberation. It's hard to sometimes see it that way, especially when you've been through a lot with yourself, sometimes self-abuse and self-trauma, but also at times with interpersonal abuse and interpersonal trauma. And as it pertains to dating, we know that it becomes extremely difficult to move forward when you've been mistreated, especially when you've been in a rut, meeting the same type of individual, the same type of character. You date liars, you date people who are always asking for money. You date the kind of people who always have, steak taste with your corner store budget.
Whatever Wendy's budget.
Yeah, your Wendy's budget. Whatever it is, and you find yourself in these ruts, and then you start looking at everybody or coloring all the potential dates or all potential relationships with that brush, because guess what? For some reason, you have been on a roller coaster in the same amusement park trying to find your way out. But every time you get on a ride on your way out, you go, let me do one more ride. You end up on the same type of scenarios. I was one of these people who never understood the phrase, living with unforgiveness is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. I understood it from an intellectual standpoint. Like, I get the word picture, I get the illustration, but I also saw unforgiveness as somewhat powerful, that if you didn't forgive, you had some kind of power over your narrative, power over yourself, power over your past, and that you could leverage that power to either enact your will on a person or people, or to hopefully get that person or goad the other person, if it's a person who's hurt you, in this particular case, dating, to apologize or to realize, hey, I messed up and I should not have wronged you. Unfortunately, that is never the case, or rarely the case, rather, I should say. And the longer you hold on to unforgiveness, the longer you limit your vision for possibilities in the future. That is ultimately what's got me off unforgiveness, number one. And then number two, health. It really is unhealthy. Unforgiveness. It's just frankly unhealthy. The energy you carry, the thoughts that just cycle through your mind. Yeah.
It will age you. Yeah.
Yeah. The reactions, snap judgments you have to other people who weren't even involved in your past scenario or history, but because they wear the same cologne or the same perfume, they got the same gait, they're from the same neighborhood, they're born in the same month. I mean, you hear people say, "Oh, what's your sign?" "Oh, I don't mess with cancers." They're crazy.
I would never date a Virgo again.
Yeah, exactly. Right. You just loop people in. So you're starting to shut down the vibrant possibilities of your future to embrace the murky waters of your past, because you think that somehow it's being predictive of future success. And it can be if it's coming from a healed space, a place of forgiveness, but it's coming from a place of unforgiveness. You haven't let go and properly processed your darkness or your trauma. And not saying you caused it, but it is your responsibility to address it and heal it. You eventually end up in a more embittered space. And that's just my personal journey with unforgiveness. As I said, I'm going through my midlife evaluation. You're somebody, though, Jay, that I've seen be able to deal with forgiveness a little bit differently. What do you think has been your highlight for being able to forgive others? Before we even get into dating, I think just starting high macro level.
Honestly, bro, I'm scared of the Lord. I'm scared of judgment. Like, I feel like forgiveness is... Like, I feel like it's very frivolous of me to hold somebody to some kind of standard that I haven't met with God. And I always think about, yeah, I might not have done something to that person, but I think about all the times that I didn't get a consequence from someone that I hurt, knowing that it was the Lord protecting me and being like, all right, so you gonna hold that person accountable when I didn't hold you? You gonna, demand some recompense from that person when I didn't demand it from you? I'm scared of that, bro. Like legit scared of that. And that's something that I just keep in my mind all the time. Like, it's easier to forgive than not. Then, cause I really think about that verse, judge not unless you want to be judged. Cause the same measure you mete out is going to be met to you. So if I'm living in unforgiveness, like I'm just thinking about like, yo, what if God today decided, all right, I'm just not going to forgive you for anything. And whatever you got coming to you, you just eat it. I get scared of that, bro. So
Mhm.
forgiveness for me is like, I'm trying to rush to that finish line.
Yeah,
You know what I
because
mean?
you've also
It's not
recognized.
even go ahead.
No, 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 please, 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 I cut you off.
Well, I was gonna say, like I shared with you a lot, it's not so much that I feel like people do things that are legit wrong. A lot of times they just do stuff that people don't like. But people treat having things done to them that they don't like they were actually wrong. And they want to hold people to, some kind of consequence, or like there should be, some kind of recompense for what they did that I didn't like, as if it was something wrong. And a lot of times it's really just something that you didn't like. So they really don't, it's not really for you to hold on to it. Like they need to apologize to you and you need to forgive them. If anything, you should really learn, not you personally, but people really should learn how to delineate those two things. Like, yo, just because you're talking to somebody and you see them out with somebody else and y'all not together, you feel a way, you want to treat them like they did something wrong to you. Like, no, they didn't do anything wrong to you. They just did something that you didn't like. And so now you treat them as if they wronged you when they just did something you didn't like. And so you start putting them through the ringer, and now they got to apologize 50 million times, or they got to make you feel like you could trust them again. And it's like, but I didn't do anything wrong. I just did something that you didn't like. Now, obviously, there are legit things that people can do wrong. A lie is wrong.
Yeah,
Cheating on someone
deception is
is
wrong.
wrong.
Yeah, deception is
Deception
wrong.
is wrong. Stealing is wrong.
Yeah.
Obviously, infidelity is wrong. And there are a lot of things that are legitimately wrong. But I think, like I said, sometimes I think we don't really do justice in delineating that. And we treat people as if the things that they do that we don't like are wrongs toward us.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that, especially in the murky world of hookups and situationships where everyone kind of plays by different rules. It's not like you get in a situationship and you're clear of all the rules. You have some rules, but you're not clear of all the rules. If you have friends with benefits, as we used to say, you're not clear of all the rules. And then so you may do something that the person didn't like, but they didn't do that intentionally. They didn't know your rule. You didn't discuss it. That wasn't part of our rule set. And it gets murky and messy and confusing. And then people catch feelings. And then it's like, well, you screwed me over. It's like, no, I just did something that I didn't know was offensive to you. And instead of just you treating me with grace about it, you're now condemning me because it hurt your feelings. But even though I didn't do anything wrong, I just did something that I thought was within our purview or within our scope. It's out of scope to you. And now, you calling for the Salem witch trials because your feelings are hurt. So I totally get what you're saying, just to bring it to the world of dating.
I think that happens in long-term relationships too. A lot.
Oh, yeah, because there's lack of communication. I mean, I think what people don't realize is this. The number one rule of communication is there is no such thing as over communication. There's a reason why we used to hear advertisers say it 7 times, or they publish a video or publish print media 7 times. They know you're not paying attention, not because you're not paying attention, but just because of the way the human mind is. I think over 70,000 thoughts a day, just what's happening on a daily basis. Now, in an extremely busy society, distracted society, it's even more important for advertisers who want to reach you to get to you, for you to grasp what's happening or what the message they have for you. It's the same thing in your home, same thing in your professional life, same thing in your dating life. I just think people just don't communicate as clearly and as consistently as they can, so that someone can really grasp what their intention is, or grasp what the import or the meaning of a particular action is for that person. And it just takes time. It just takes time. And I especially think people expect, as we always quote from that English gentleman who did that 20-minute YouTube on why you marry the wrong person, the expectation is this high view of romance that the person that is ultimately your person, or one of your people, if I'd like to say, will be able to wordlessly, meaning without words, without
Mm-hmm.
communicating, anticipate your
Anticipate.
needs.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Nobody's a mind reader.
That's the highest form of romantic, that's peak romance.
Mm-hmm.
Before I even knew it, He did it before I even knew it.
Yeah.
She went to it and got it and purchased it, and that really doesn't happen. That happens after maybe 15, 20 years of good communication. I mean, people who have that in marriage have been married for 45 years.
I
And
think it
that
can
shit,
happen. I think it can happen even sooner than that.
it
But to
can,
your
but
point,
that's
what
what
you
I'm
always talk
seeing.
about,
Yeah.
it's not the norm. It's not the norm for people to meet you and just be able to innately, by through osmosis, figure out what you like.
Hmm.
And yeah, no, you got to be talking to people. And like you said, sometimes you will need to promote it 7 times in an ad when you're talking to them. Sometimes you will need to,
Yeah.
because to your point, those 70,000 thoughts a day are, they're in your head. They got your head on the swivel. You're thinking about this and the kids and
Hmm.
washing dishes and who's taking out the trash and who's picking up and dinner and all. We understand, but the communication, and I will add to that, the understanding need to be in place. There needs
Yeah.
to be communication. People need to be trying to listen to understand. Yeah,
Yeah.
it needs to be a whole process.
So I want to switch gears here, and that's a very good point about letting go of the past to talk about dating. This is important for me for two reasons. One, my issue with unforgiveness. Two, I have been a part of a project called My Relationship where I allowed the past to interfere with my ability to love someone else. And letting go of the past is twofold. One, letting go of your past. So you've done things, maybe you didn't do things. Maybe there's things you wish you should have done and now you can't, or you're encumbered. And so you can't do it as quickly or as fast or as effectively as you used to do it. Or you did some things and you don't want anyone to know about it. The person finds out and you're embarrassed, you're humiliated, you feel like someone, caught you, like George Costanza coming out of the pool. It's shrinkage, it's just the pool, it's just the pool. And you're exposed. And you're going to have to learn to do both. Let go of your own past, but let go of your partner's past. Especially if that past is, like you just said, not something they did wrong to you, but something that maybe you heard about, you discovered, and maybe you have a little challenge with. I remember in Insecure, the first season, Molly was dating a dude and he talked about having a bisexual experience and she just
I remember
judged
that.
him as gay and wrote him off. And right, people have tons of experiences that they may want to share with you or you'll find out about. And you're immediately going to jump to labeling that context in which they operated in. You're going to label maybe them. Again, this is how the human brain works. So categorizing is a natural thing that we do. The problem is acting on your categorizing it, because your first instinct is to categorize. Your second instinct to be like, well, I don't know what I'm talking about with my categorizing. My categories are off. They are filtered through the lens of biases and
Mm-hmm.
prejudices and misinformation, disinformation. I don't know the whole story. Even if my partner's telling me the truth, there may just be a lens to it that they don't see from their own biases or prejudices. And so you're going to have to learn to let go of your own past and let go of their past, because that's the only way you're going to establish a dynamic to move forward. And this is going to be critical because so many of us will rely on our past, whether it's in the bedroom with physical acts or it's, oh, this person used to do this for me. They buy this for me. They purchase that for me. Well, you're not with that person anymore. They bought me roses every Friday. Well, that means maybe you have a love language, for example, to put it in that framework of, gifts. That's fine. But this person may buy you a pizza, or they might buy you food, or they do maybe bigger trips, so they don't get the roses every Friday. Here comes a big trip every quarter, whether it's in the United States or outside. Does that count for something? Well, it's because so-and-so used to do this. You got to let that go and embrace a dynamic that's going to move you forward in that relationship. Let go, practice letting go of your past. And if you have a hard time, that's fine. Just like you have a hard time doing push-ups, your goal maybe 50 push-ups, the most you can do 10. You start putting yourself in a program to do more push-ups and eventually get to 50. It's the same thing with letting go of your past. Do not be fooled. You don't have to automatically, quote unquote, get it. There is no amazing Kreskin moment, no, psychic moment where all of a sudden you're enlightened because you can let go of your past easily. You may have to work on it on a daily basis and create a practice of mindfulness that allows you to slowly chip away at that so you can get to a point where you can let go of your past and let go of your partner's past. And that's okay if it's a process. Don't be ashamed of that you couldn't do it immediately.
Yeah, that's definitely important. I would say, to your point about this love languages thing, though, I think one of the things that I
It's
had
just
an
one
issue
framework
with,
too.
yeah, one issue I had with that book is I feel like it made people a little tunnel vision just about learning how to name their own love language, how they receive it. I mean, just based over what I seen when people talked about the test, when I read the book, talked about it with others, it didn't seem like it made people more open minded as to how other people innately give love. You know what I mean? Like you just talked about, somebody may show it with the trips, but you're used to somebody doing it with the roses, and you're so used to having your love language met in this way that you're not open to seeing when someone else is just showing you how they innately give love. And it could go overlooked. You know what I mean? It can go unappreciated, and
Mhm,
that can cause people to
mhm,
want to walk away. It can
mhm.
cause people to start resenting you and things like that. But I think to your point about forgetting the past, that's why you need to, is because if it makes you tunnel vision about all the
Yeah,
things you've had and someone is trying to show you something new, you can miss that whole boat.
yeah, yeah.
Still be SOS and out there with, you know what I'm saying?
With the
Yeah.
flare?
Yeah.
No, I agree with you. One of the things, even with me thinking about my childhood, that I've told myself is, can you look back at your childhood, and if you have parents or caretakers, doesn't matter, whoever took care of you, if you did have that, and say, I'm pretty much sure with like 95% confidence that person did the best they could for the majority. I mean, there's times they went down below 95, but for the most part, when you do the whole analysis,
Yeah.
they did 95%. I'm 95% confident they did extremely well, and the best they could by me, the best. Not even say it was what you needed. It was the best they could give. To what you're saying, it wasn't necessarily what I needed or wanted, but it was the best they could give. And take it a step further, and it met needs for those, because I don't want to get into homelessness and people got into addictions and all the substance abuse. But for people where your needs were met, you were clothed, you had a home to live in, then maybe you need to let go some of the other issues that maybe you have, or confront them, but confront them in love,
Mm-hmm.
because this person did the best by you and your needs were met according to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? As far as love, consideration, kindness, you were maybe a budding real estate maven and they never saw your vision for investing in homes as young as 8 years old. There's 8-year-olds like that, acting, singing, dancing, computers, programming, mechanical engineer. They just didn't see it. They were so busy working 2 or 3 jobs to make ends meet, and you brought home that science project you worked hard on, and they didn't really pay attention to it the way you wanted to, like so-and-so's parent down the block, parents you've read about years later. Let that go, because you know they did the best. And the same thing I think goes for dating. Can you reasonably assess if someone's doing their best by you to meet your needs, and your needs are being met on a majority of the areas where you need them met, and they're doing the best by you? Then start by providing the grace that they have earned, in my opinion, and the love that they've given you, by respecting it and saying, hey, thank you. And I
Mm-hmm.
agree with you. Sometimes we get so tunnel vision in these frameworks, and there's tons of relational frameworks that we could talk about. But what happens is you start browbeating people the same way that people who are religious browbeat people
Mm-hmm.
who don't subscribe to either their religion or fellow people who do subscribe, but you don't do it like this. And you
Right. Or
have these
certain
people
religious
going through these
traditions.
purity loops. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep.
And you end up pushing people away, pushing relationships away, just to satisfy the quote unquote law, whatever the law is for your religious tradition.
Yeah. You're supposed to come to church every Sunday. You're supposed to tithe. You're
Yeah,
supposed to
yeah,
pray this
yeah,
amount of times a
whatever.
day. Yeah. Whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, whatever it is. And you get to things like, why'd you cut your hair? You cut off your glory. How come you're wearing a skirt? Men don't wear earrings. Tongue rings on a man? Ooh,
All that makeup in the house of the Lord?
yeah, exactly. And
Got that
people,
Jezebel spirit on you? They do it right
E
away.
exactly. And you see it through all, traditions, and you see it now in these relational frameworks. It's just a part of the human experience, the human bias, the way that maybe the architecture of the human brain. We will beat people up with, you didn't give me the love language the way I asked for it at this time and this day. Now, don't get me wrong. If they need to work up to it, that's fine. We could talk about working up to it in conversation, but is it a conversation in love and kindness and grace, recognizing the work they have done and the work they are and the energy they are exhibiting? Or is it, you wanted a certain way, it didn't happen, and then that's it? Or you're holding them to what an ex used to
Ex
do.
person did. Yeah.
They're not doing it like the ex. Well, they're not the ex. Then go back with the
Mm-hmm.
ex.
Mm-hmm.
And this
Yeah.
is how, again, in my opinion, yes, we do have resentment of real challenges that emerge in our relationships or cycles we get into with dating a certain type of person that we need to interrogate. But some of us, I believe, invent, or rather create resentment by doing very simple, hurtful things to ourselves and to our partners.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, I didn't like that you didn't do that. I didn't communicate about it, or I did communicate it, and you're taking longer than anticipated. Well, now I'm resentful of you. Well, there's so many things you could be resentful about. I'm not saying resentment is somewhere place you want to be spiritually or emotionally. But I mean, if you're gonna do it, at least do
There's
it the right
reasons
way.
to. Yeah. There's
Do
real
it for something,
reasons to.
yeah, that you have a legitimate reason for, not for somebody who's struggling, and I mean struggling to move forward with you the way you want them to move forward with you.
Yeah.
And that's sometimes what's blocking us. We think it's these big spiritual issues or challenges. It's like, no, it's the small details of communication, kindness, and dignity that we're not respecting. Then we're building resentment because someone's not doing it the way we want. And here we are calling on the Lord, calling on this one, calling on that one, calling the friend channel, doing the group chat, saying, I don't even know why I'm in this relationship. You're actually in a pretty decent
Decent.
position.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Relationship.
Mm-hmm.
All relationships have problems. And to me, problems just remind you you're alive and that you have been granted the opportunity to use your creativity to solve them. Some days it's annoying. Some days it feels it's invigorating, and you got to take both with it. Because some days I'm
Yeah.
annoyed by it. Some days I'm invigorated by it, but you're not
Yeah.
in a bad position. The
Yeah.
person who's getting ripped off by their spouse, the person who comes home and sees an eviction notice after someone told them they're paying the rent, to find out when the marshal's at the door, like, oh, rent ain't been paid in 2 years. What?
Right. I mean, but
Oh, I
they've been
thought the
going to
car
work.
was, and you see the repo man outside, like,
Mm-hmm.
no,
You
it ain't been
thought?
paid in 9 months. Them two folks got reason to be resentful.
Yeah.
They've been sleeping in a bed of lies, sleeping in it. So it's just important that we deal with real issues that we do have and not make issues where there is no issue. And I was even taking a step further, not make issues where there's real hope and an opportunity.
Yeah. Not majoring in the minors.
Yeah, not majoring in the minors.
Yeah. I like that you brought up the term about what we put on ourselves, because I feel like a lot of
Mhm.
times we walk around with unforgiveness of others because there's things in us that we haven't forgiven ourselves for.
Yeah,
Whether it's, goals or achievements that we thought we would have by a certain age, or life
yeah.
looking a certain way. I don't know, us making a certain amount of money, being with a certain type of person, whatever it is, there's something unresolved that we haven't forgiven ourselves for, that's creating this challenge and forgiving other people. What do you think about that?
I agree with it. Absolutely agree. You get angry at your coworker because they don't deliver reports on time because you are dealing with fear around maybe failure, things
Mm-hmm.
that you didn't do, things that a time that you delivered a paper late or a deliverable late and it created all these problems for you. You missed a promotion.
Got lambasted for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. And same thing with dating. You're at times crucifying somebody or getting angry or having resentment, sometimes for things that may mirror dynamics that ultimately deal with your home life or your life and not your partner. I'll give an example. Your partner just has an ability to make things work. They show up late, they still get into the concert for the discounted tickets. They're able to wing getting tickets to overseas. They're just people who just seem to traffic in that luck energy.
Super resourceful, it seems like.
Yeah. Yeah. They're really
Always land on
likable.
their feet.
They always land on their feet. They don't have anything steady, but they always got money, right? They just know how to make things work. And if you are a child of a home where your family, you have a sibling who was like that and they were favored by your parents and you were the workhorse and you were blamed or you were castigated or you were lambasted for being slow, and they were the ones who, even though you worked harder, they just somehow got it and was able to take off.
Mm-hmm.
Now what?
Yeah.
When you're the one who had to study and they were the one who can just get the answer and do not even an eighth of the work you did.
They in the backyard with you all night. Somehow they pass the test, you fail,
Yeah.
and it's like, wait a minute,
And with an A and you pull in maybe a C, the teacher's like, I'll give you some extra credit because they like you, but they
yeah,
can't give you no higher grade because you didn't make the better grade.
yeah,
Now you're with a partner who mimics that sibling. You may be harboring some resentment against that partner, but it's really because of this
about
whole
yeah,
dynamic at home
mm-hmm,
where you were labeled, pushed aside, not as celebrated as the sibling who always got
right.
things moving.
Even if that was perceived, it's still real.
Of course.
Yeah,
Of course.
yeah,
And have you spoken to your parents? Have you gone back to your caretaker? Have you gone back to that family system and addressed it? Or you're just saying, well, you have this resentment, this hatred, and now you're aiming it at your partner. But your partner's not doing anything wrong. They're just being themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You have to ask yourself, why did you find somebody that you want to couple with that exactly mimics the dynamic you say you want to be out of, or that you can't stand, or that was unjust or unfair? How did you end up back in that dynamic? And this is what I'm talking about, letting go of resentment, that we could talk about the discrete acts of this person ripped me off. They didn't pay the bill on time. I was waiting for them at the airport. They never showed up. They ghosted me and I keep being ghosted. And don't get me wrong, those are all reasons to build up resentment in this current dating market. But I also want us to pay attention to ourselves, because the only person we can truly control is ourselves. And even that we have
Mm-hmm.
a problem.
Yeah.
Even that
For
we
real.
struggle with. The
For
only
real.
person
Super
you
struggle.
can change is yourself. So are you engaging in dynamics unconsciously that are mimicking or paralleling relationships that you have not let go of the resentment before then, especially coming out of a family system? You have to think about that. And these are just ways that we build up resentment with our partner. And they're not doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
Some people can literally fly by the seat of their pants. First class.
Legit.
That night just fly by this. Just got there. Like, they will get there, land in a Learjet, and you're like, yo.
And fall right in like it was no challenge, nothing.
Like it's nothing.
Yeah.
Like it's nothing. And you're back into that workhorse dynamic that is become such a big part of your identity and your struggles. And then you're wondering why you keep picking the same people, or that you're in the same kind of dynamic. There's a reason. And the resentment is not the dating. The resentment is not the market. The resentment is not the partners you're meeting. Some people are meeting great partners. They're meeting great people. It's a dynamic they create in that relationship or in that dating scenario or scenarios that keeps going toxic for them. Not that they're toxic or the other person's toxic. You create a toxic dynamic because you have resentment and unforgiveness for a phase in your life that predates these relationships you have not forgiven or addressed, the resentment you have to let go of, and the hope that you have not cultivated for a better future. I know because I've done it.
How did it manifest in a relationship? How did it show up?
Well, it showed up for me with being around I was going to say two things, and that's why I got stumbled there for a second. Let me take it a step back. I think the first way it manifested for me was looking at people who are a partner who has good self-esteem. They maybe been through some trauma. They've been through some things, appointments, challenges, crazy parents. Some of us can argue all of our parents are crazy on some level, but they're good. They're good with themselves. They're good with their achievements. They're good with their successes. They're truthing with who they are. And I was in an unhealed state about myself and my abilities, and wondering why I couldn't do X or couldn't do Y. How come I'm not prepared to go into this arena? And then you're looking at your partner's success and you're being angry about it, or you're looking at their confidence and you're being angry about it. Some of us, I'll give you another example, professional success. You're looking at your partner's professional success because you don't have that professional success. And some women talk about this, where men get jealous, of professional success. And I think it happens with women to men too. But I specifically have heard women talking about it with men. But you're jealous, or you are building resentment because you haven't really truths with where you should be. You're trying to get into finance, and you really should be a social worker. And granted, finance pays more money on paper, but if you would just take the risk, bet on yourself, and really live in faith, you would ultimately become a social services entrepreneur and make tons more money as a social services entrepreneur than you would being a finance. It's going to take you a while to get there. You ain't going to just walk in the out, and
because your gifts are going to make room for you, but you got to be working them.
It's a process, and there is time, the time element, but ultimately you'll be happier, more satisfied, more fulfilled, and eventually have businesses that you can go ahead with. You may start nursing homes, a string of nursing, and you do really well, or child care centers, etc. But you can't let go of that finance thing. Then you're looking at your partner where, they're planted where they're supposed to be planted.
Where they're supposed to be, right, exactly.
And now you're angry.
And that's what you're really angry at. You're not angry that they're, thriving in finance. It's just that their path to success, they were on it because they were doing the right things. They were just putting one foot in front of the other, trudging along in their purpose. Meanwhile, you're trying to Hollywood in the finance world, and that's not where you're supposed to be.
Yeah, you get a little bit and then you go down, then you get a little thing and then you feel, okay, it's finally breaking through for me. It's finally working out. And you just have these ups and downs. If we were to chart your career, it just look like a
Yeah.
crazy market turns. But the reality is it's that way because you're choosing to stay in a place that's truly not, there for you.
Yeah.
Palm trees planted in New York City. I mean, you could do it, right? But I mean, I don't see them
In one of
thriving
these
here.
new high-rise buildings in the lobby, maybe, or something like that, I guess,
Exactly. But
in the
is that really
courtyard
where
out there,
palm
but that's
trees are
not
really seen
right.
in
Yeah.
Dubai and, the Middle East and Florida and other places? The Palm Desert
Mhm.
in Cali.
Bel Air, California, yeah, we expected to see there,
And
but
that's where they
New
truly
York
thrive, and they're
City?
remarkable, and there's just, visual beauty to see these palm trees there. I mean, I've seen a couple in the city, but like you said, it's a very constrained, very tight-locked
And you know
version
it's a
of a palm
man-made
tree.
environment too. Yeah. You
So
know it's
there's a
not a
lot that
natural
goes into
environment.
sustaining it
Right.
because it's an unnatural environment. So in order to keep it there, I gotta do so much more work now to keep the palm tree alive and thriving. That's you in a place you ain't supposed to be while you looking at your partner or the person you're dating or the larger dating market, people who are successful at dating, they're willing to take a risk. And you're not because you're going to hold on to your list and you're going to hold on to this and you're going to hold on to that. Maybe you're holding on to unforgiveness. Maybe you're holding on to a version of yourself that you need to let go.
Hmm.
And then you would be able to have the type of fun times that other people are able to have,
Yeah.
the type of relationships. Forgive your parents for their whack marriage, man. Forgive them. Forgive your
Mm.
forgive your single parent for not doing not finding somebody. Forgive all that stuff.
Legit.
Some people were doing the best they could. And some people were messing up on purpose. Regardless, you're gonna have to forgive. That's what I had to learn about forgiveness. I'll forgive when you get right. Then you're gonna
Right.
be
Yeah. For a long time,
we're
you're
gonna
gonna
be
be
at your
walking around
funeral talking about, you lived a
unhealthy.
long life and you loved him.
There ain't no long life with unforgiveness, man. I don't
Well,
know.
that's
Because like you
another
said, it declines your health. It
yeah.
really does. It takes your health down. It
Well,
really
I'll forgive
does.
them when they get right. And they may never get right.
Man, you're gonna be at the judgment like, did he get right yet, Lord? All right, I'll forgive him now.
And God be like, no,
No, he didn't. So what are you gonna do?
you
Before I
gonna be up
open
here
these
with me.
gates, what you
You
wanna
gonna
do?
come and just enjoy paradise, or you gonna still hold on to it?
But that's what I'm
Because they
saying.
got in front of me and was still on some, nah,
I get so
I'm
afraid
staying
of that,
strong.
bro. I get so afraid. That's why I'm like, I'm trying to rush to forgiveness because I really don't want to be. And not that I think that that's a real thing, but just even in my mind, I'm like, if that were the case, and my getting in the gates was hinging on forgiveness, and I had a whole lot of unforgiveness in my heart, like I'd be scared of that, bro. I'm sorry.
Well, I'll tell you about this being a practiced holder honor, unforgiveness expert. All games have rules. I just think some people play the unforgiveness game as if they're playing the forgiveness game, meaning that I can be in unforgiveness, but I can have the same peace and joy and control and release and all those mechanisms as you do in forgiveness. And you can't. You just have to
Yeah.
understand that you're literally like radiation over
Mm.
time decaying because, right?
Hmm.
Okay, you get in the first 5 minutes of radiation, like, oh, your body's like, I can handle this. The 15th year radiation, your body's like, dum,
All
dum,
decrepit.
dum.
Yeah. That's what it is. Yeah. Because
So
it eats away at you.
yeah, it slowly, but you
Hmm.
think you brolic in it. I'm
Yeah.
getting through it. You know what I mean? It don't mean nothing to me. But then you try to walk and you realize you hunched over, and it's like it's slowly, decaying you.
Wow.
So you have to realize if you're doing unforgiveness, what you're ultimately doing. You're
Yeah.
playing that game. So don't think you're going to be standing on forgiveness and then still be strong and free. And I can still bench 315 and all that. You'd be lucky if you can pick up a pencil pretty soon.
Yeah. And it's so crazy you say that, bro, because I'm thinking about it now. There are a lot of people who cope with terminal illnesses, like
Mhm.
cope with the same way we do
Yeah. Oh yeah.
with the effects of unforgiveness. Like you said, we'll walk around in this life like it's nothing. Like knowing that
Mhm.
we're in unforgiveness, but we could
Mhm.
just go to work, interact with people like normal, knowing we like if we hear something about that person, we don't really want to hear anything positive. We almost really wish something negative, but we don't say it. And
Exactly.
we cope with the effects of that, not realizing that every day is taking us down. We don't know why we got these headaches. We don't know
Mhm.
why, we can't sleep well. We don't know why we're having these bad dreams. And it could be related to that, but we'll cope with all of that.
Oh,
We'll
absolutely.
cope with all that's
Yes.
man, when you
Yeah.
just said it, I just thought about it like, wow, there's so many people coping with the effects of unforgiveness,
Mhm.
not even thinking about changing.
No, I mean, my therapist said it best. Have you ever heard of somebody they get a terminal illness diagnosis, then, all right, you got 6 months to live, then they go 9, then they go 10. And then 3 or 4 years later, they're still around. He goes, sometimes what happens is the terminal illness diagnosis was the catalyst or the impetus for them finally saying, I need to let go of my suffering. I need to address
Mm,
my suffering.
mhm.
And when they address their suffering, the body said, cool, the cancer we
Yeah.
got. We just needed you to take this energy off of us so that we could just
Wow.
do our work that we already are designed to do, which is to regenerate and to destroy cancer cells and regenerate cells and be healthy. And now you're seeing a turnaround because you finally were able to address the issue. Some people, they'll get a terminal diagnosis. And like I said, they're going to be standing strong. I've told you this before, regardless of what your spiritual beliefs are, I do believe in a life review, a judgment.
Mhm.
And I just think some people are going to be standing strong on Judgment Day. Like, I don't know. Sometimes you hear these near-death experiences where people are like in such awe of the love they can feel at that point that they just they'll take it off. I don't know. I don't know. I just feel some people are going to be like, "No, I'm good." Are you? Well, do
Yeah.
you forgive? Nah, man, I'm straight.
10
They
toes
can
down
still
on it.
S my D and SMD and okay.
They can go to hell, literally. Since we
Yeah,
standing up
exactly.
here at the judgment, send them right on down there, Lord. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I'll forgive.
Respectfully, Lord, you wasn't doing your job, but you need to
Yo, I think some kind now I could be wrong. I could be
uh,
wrong. I don't want to give any, I don't mean to be a person who, is big thing in the black church tradition of swaying people certain ways with what you say and get people to believe things that, so I'm not trying to do that out of respect for my traditions and the elders and the ancestors of my traditions. But the reality is, I just wonder that because some people get the terminal diagnosis and they're like, yo, I ain't dying for this. I let it go.
or I'm not changing my health, my habits. I'm still eating away. I'm still smoking out.
Mhm, mhm. But it's the same thing. You're getting a terminal diagnosis in your dating life.
Yeah.
You're not going on good dates. You're not being productive. You're not being creative the way you'd want to be. And then you're wondering why you're not getting callbacks or people aren't interested in talking to you because people are like, yo, you're radioactive.
Yeah.
And while I could bear to be around you for 5 to 10 minutes, if I take this leap with you and spend 15 years, what's going to happen?
I mean, listen.
We already know what's going to. I don't need to buy tickets to that movie to know how it's going to end. I already know how it's going to end. So
Correct.
why would I waste my time and my money? So again, this is coming from someone who was a practiced unforgiveness. Now, to be fair to myself, on some level, I don't think I saw it as unforgiveness. I saw it as some kind of morality play. I saw it as an ethical play of holding accountability and responsibility and conversation with what happened, and you're just not going to get that out of me without having a conversation. And there is room for that. There is room for that because forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. Forgiveness doesn't mean complete trust. Forgiveness doesn't mean respect restored.
Yeah.
It doesn't. So there was a lot of that happening and caught up in what I was dealing with on forgiveness. But it really took time, and thank God for God's grace because I needed, like you said, you forgive because you needed it. And I had to realize that too. Forgiveness is just about recognizing the energy you should be in at times. Like they always say, the woman, Ari from the Wing Girl Method, who talks about meeting women and dating, she said, listen, you should always be in that energy to flirting. Even if
Mm-hmm.
you're a straight man, you should be flirting. Now, she says flirting doesn't have to always be sexual. So if you're a straight man, you're not going to be sexual with men.
Right.
But you should always be in the energy of glad handling, encouraging people, having fun, teasing, just
Being
having a good
charismatic.
time,
Yep.
being
Mm-hmm.
charismatic. That's what it really means to be flirting
Yeah.
all the time. But it's the same kind of thing with forgiveness. You should always just be in that posture and that energy. Some days it's going to be easier than others. Some days it's going to feel like a grind, like you're trying to get through quicksand. Some days you're going to feel like you're the elite, the most elite skier in the Alps, having a grand old time. We're going to go to the chateau after this, have a good time, break bread, raise glasses, hot cocoa, put a little brandy in it. Some days it's going to feel like that. But ultimately, there are energies you should always be either trafficking in, or if you come off that energy path, getting back into those energies, it's just a good energy for you to be in. It's like being positive. I've talked to you about complimenting your friends and just recognizing your friends' achievements, even if there's little things you've learned from them, because to me, that's just energy you should be in all the time.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah, so forgiveness, just look at forgiveness as energy you should be in. Some days it's going to be easier. For those that have been through very deep traumas, for those that have been through abusive relationships, substance abuse, those are experiences, not things, experiences that may require a clinical environment or a clinical voice for you to
Mm-hmm.
resolve
And more time. But
and more time. So when we talk, we're talking at a certain level. There's always different levels to this. So we're talking at one level. And I would say at the top layer level, As you go down, it's going to get deeper and more intense. And if that is the case for you, you then need to invest your
Mm,
time and energy and body in a clinical experience, in my opinion,
that's
in
good.
order to help you work through it. Because we're talking about dating and we're talking from a certain perspective of dating. It's limited, it's powerful, but limited. And we
Yeah.
recognize what that is.
And on that note,
And on that note, guys, this has been great. Great conversation, Jay. Thank you. Another episode of Save the Date. I'm Heath.
I'm Jamie. Y'all learn to forgive yourselves and others.
Yeah, check us out on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok at Save the Date Now. Thank you, guys.
Peace.
Take care.